Hi world, it's 11:30 in the morning on the 31st of August 2018. A big thank you to all those people out there who've been emailing me, wishing me the best in my convalescence and my recovery from surgery, and an even bigger thank you to those people who have helped me in other ways, and you know who you are, and I'll be in touch with as many of you as I can in the near future to say big thank you for everything you've done for me. I couldn't do what I'm doing and going to do in the future without people like you who have backed me up. So big thank you to everyone. The sun signs for September will be done later today, but I'm not going to be able to post them live on YouTube until tomorrow night. So they're not going to be live for another 24, possibly 36 hours. Sorry, but that's the way it is. In a nutshell, I've been in hospital. I've had some pretty big surgery. I've lost various parts of my anatomy, but none of it is life-threatening or life-challenging. Life-changing, but not life-challenging. I've now got rid of a few bits of anatomy that have been bugging me for a long time. And hopefully, that's that. Hopefully. The recovery has been painful. I've had some rather nice medications, which are now I'm not doing anymore. And from there up, I'm fine. And from the hips down, I'm fine. But in between, it looks like I've had a losing fight with a meat Fletcher. But time will recover. So, once again, big thank you to everyone who helped me during my convalescence. I will be back fairly shortly now doing videos again. But I thought I'd regale you with a little story around how I got into astrology. I discovered my first astrology book in 1976-77. And I just looked at it and thought, well, that's interesting. Symbols, patterns, I can do that. And I knew already a lot about patterns and symbol and pattern recognition from when I was in the army, when I was in my late teens. And working with coding. In 1980, I discovered something called the North Node in astrology, and that changed my perception on it. It gave me a sense of purpose with astrology. So in 1982, I started constructing horoscopes for other people properly. In 1985, I started asking for donations. By 1994-95, I was doing it regularly, still working in other jobs, but regularly doing astrology, starting to do phone lines. And then from 2000 onwards, the end of 99, start of 2000 onwards, doing astrological readings became my only source of income. Actually, I got that wrong. End of 2000 onwards, doing astrological readings became my only source of income. In 2003, I went to Bath Spa University without any educational qualifications and did the MA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology, graduating in 2005. And since that time, I've recommended 3 or 4 astrological students to go and do that MA. They've all been accepted and they've all passed. And recently, 1 or 2 of them have... they've come back to me and they've said, well, thanks for putting us in for that. We're doing our dissertation. Here's some questions we'd like to ask you as a practicing astrologer. So, and to summarise it, this has got me thinking about the astrologer's role in astrology and the nature of astrology itself. About 6 years ago, I had a Damascus moment. 7 years ago, I had a Damascus moment where I realised through my study of the North Node that this notion of karma and reincarnation is linked to an ancient philosophy based on reincarnation and, one life follows another, which I thought that just doesn't make sense. Not anymore. More people alive now than there's ever been in history. So linear reincarnation just doesn't work. And I stopped seeing the North Node as karma and reincarnation, and instead I started seeing it as purpose, mission statement, why you chose to come to planet Earth in the first place, what you volunteered for. Once I did that, the whole nature of astrology changed for me, and I stopped relating to my life as in a life that happens between being born and dying. I don't believe in death. Death, as we've understood it, or as we've been force-fed it by various religions and doctrines, doesn't actually exist. It's a scare tactic. There is no such thing as death. There is a transition of consciousness that happens when your body physically dies and you move into another dimension of existence. Now, I can't prove this. I'm not there yet, and if I was, I wouldn't be able to come back and tell you. but I firmly believe it to be true, and all of my studies and my interactions with other people who have now passed over lead me to assume that this is correct. So if there is eternal life after physical death, then there must be eternal life before birth. So this whole notion of death, therefore the whole notion of karma and reincarnation went out the window. At which point I started looking at astrology and thought, well, for astrology to actually have valence in the modern world, it can't just be an it. It's always been seen as a pseudoscience or a divinatory art or something like that. So I started experimenting with stopping calling astrology an it and starting calling it a she. Not because I count myself as a feminist, although I'm certainly not a macho misogynistic man, but because the nature of astrology is by its very essence based around words like empathy, compassion, sensuality, feminine attributes regardless of one's gender. Once I started seeing astrology as a she, it all changed. I realised that astrology's been around forever. Ever since humanity got off its knuckles and started pointing up at the stars 2 million years ago on the African plains and started seeing lights moving and making legends about what they were seeing. And modern history would have it that astrology only started 4,500 BC with the Sumerians, but that's only because that, as far as modern history goes, 5,000 BC, Europeans were walking around in bearskins. Obviously rubbish. Astrology's outlasted every religion, every theology, philosophy, political system, culture. Astrology's been there forever, always will be. And now, in the 21st century, more and more people are getting involved in astrology. More and more people across the spectrum, from politicians, film stars and celebrities to factory workers, street cleaners, bus drivers. My client list has every type of person you could possibly imagine. And it's becoming more and more popular. The idea of sun sign astrology is falling through the floor, fortunately, because it is, after all, drivel. But there's still a place for it, but a decreasing place. And personal astrology is becoming ever more of an art. The world needs astrologers. I've been fortunate enough to shepherd a number of people in terms of training. I hope to be able to set up my own, not school obviously, but teaching classes online over the coming year. Astrology is accelerating. It's developing. More and more people are getting involved in it. More and more people are seeing it for what it is. A system of self-recognition. A way to understand oneself from a more objective, detached and impersonal perspective. And a way, with practice, to be able to, with dignity, authenticity, integrity, to be able to put it in the path of other people and help them help themselves. You don't do it for them, you give them the tools to do it for themselves. It is changing the world, and it is more and more intelligent people, regardless of that intelligence. I'm not talking about how many academic degrees you have, how much wealth you have, what car you drive, what religion or social standing you have. I'm talking about words like compassion, authenticity, integrity, intelligence, spirituality as well. The more intelligent people are, the more astrology is coming into their lives in a way that gives them the ability to be able to use it to help them not forecast or predict futures, but to be able to influence their own decision making so that they can flow with what's going on around them, thus creating a more harmonious life for themselves and the world around them. This in itself will lead to a better world. And in the 21st century, especially in the last few years with the craziness that's going on, that's what we all aspire to. So, I'm back. I'm not going to be properly back for another few days yet, but I'm going to be back on a lot more regular level, minus 1 or 2 bits. Sense of humour still intact. Sun signs are up tomorrow. Big thank you to all of you who have cared and helped. You know who you are. Thanks. Bye.